everyone, the Flying Scotsman here, and welcome to this video. Now, I guess this video is one that a lot of you have been waiting for, and, well, given that it is now the 20th anniversary, I think we should take a look at the first of our Microsoft Windows decennial, or decennial, how do you pronounce it, anniversaries of this year. Because, believe it or not, the start of a decade seemed to be when Microsoft liked to release operating systems that would become revolutionary. There was Windows 3.0, which put Microsoft Windows for the first time for general users on the map. There was Windows Millennium Edition, which stands as a warning as to how not to do things, in the opinion of a lot of people. But today, we're going to be talking about Windows 2000. Now, yes, Windows 2000 is 20 years old as of February the 17th, 2020. It was released to consumers on 17th of February 2000. And, well, what a way to see in the new millennium. However, this was not the version of Microsoft Windows that we were all going to be using in the home. In fact, it was a version of Windows that people really only got excited about using if they were actually into computers, because it was the operating system that throughout the early 2000s we all used at the office, which was, yeah, not very exciting. But, well, it was revolutionary in its own right, and Windows 2000, of course, did give rise to Windows XP. So, let's get started. So what is Windows 2000? Well, it is an operating system, or series of operating systems, that was produced by Microsoft as part of the WINDOWSNT family of operating systems. Now, this family included Windows NT 3.1, Windows NT 3.5, NT 3.51, NT 4.0, Windows XP, Windows Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 8.1, and all the editions of Windows 10. Yep, that's right. We are still technically using Windows NT, although Windows Vista did have a complete kernel rebuild. This operating system, Windows 2000, was released to manufacturing on December the 15th, 1999, and launched to retail on February the 17th, 2000, and is a successor to Windows NT 4.0. Now, there were 4 editions of Windows 2000 released. These were Windows 2000 Professional, Windows 2000 Server, Windows 2000 Advanced Server, and Windows 2000 Data Center Server. Oops! How did that get in there? Oops-a-daisy. Well, that's what happens when you don't have your first cup of tea of the day. Oops. Let's just get that out of here. Right. Good. Windows 2000 Data Center Server. There you go. That's what it looks like. That's what the box looks like. Now, Windows 2000 Advanced Server and Windows 2000 Data Center Server were both released to manufacturing and launched months after the other editions. While each edition of Windows 2000 was targeted at a different market, they did share a core set of features, including many system utilities such as the Microsoft Management Console and standard system administration applications. Windows 2000 introduced a new version of the NT file system called NuttyFS 3.0 encrypting file system, as well as basic and dynamic disk storage. Support for people with disabilities was improved over NT4 with a number of new assistive technologies, and Microsoft increased support for different languages and locale information. But I notice there's still not an option for an independent Scotland. The Windows 2000 server family has additional features. The most notably, the introduction of the Active Directory service, which in the years following became a widely used directory service in business environments and is still used today on Windows domained networks. Now, we're not going to be going through Windows 2000 Server in too much detail in this video, because for most people, you probably want to see the workstation version, as in Windows 2000 Professional. If people want to see Windows 2000 Server, I can talk about that in a different video. But I have used Windows 2000 Server myself a couple of times. Once at home to act as a server to my old machines, and once at, well, notably at Retrofest, where I do have a Dell Dimension 4100 acting as a headless Windows 2000 server. And you know what? Does pretty well for what I need it to. Microsoft marketed Windows 2000 as the most secure Windows version ever at the time. However, it became the target of a number of high-profile virus attacks such as Code Red and Nimda. For 10 years after its release, it continued to receive patches for security vulnerabilities nearly every month until reaching the end of its life cycle on July the 13th, 2010. Windows 2000 is the last version of Microsoft Windows to display the Windows NT designation, and the last version where the desktop and server versions shared the same name. It is succeeded by Windows XP, which was released in October 2001, and Windows 2000 Server 2003, which was released in April of 2003. So, where did Windows 2000 come from? Well, it was a continuation of the Microsoft Windows NT family of operating systems, and was to be the replacement for not only Windows NT 4.0, but Windows 98. The original name for the operating system was going to be Windows NT 5.0, with the first beta released in September 1997, followed by Beta 2 in August of 1998. Now, on October the 27th of that year, Microsoft announced the name of the final version of the operating system would be Windows 2000, a name which referred to its projected release date. Windows 2000 Beta 3 was released in January 1999. NT 5.1 Beta 1 was very similar to NT 4.0, including a very similarly themed logo. NT 5.0 Beta 2 introduced a mini boot screen and removed the dark space theme in the logo. NT 5.0 betas had very long startup and shutdown sounds, though these were changed in the early Windows 2000 beta. But during Beta 3, a new piano-made startup and shutdown sound were made, and these were featured in the final version as well as in Windows Millennium Edition. The new login prompt from the final version made its first appearance in Beta 3 build 1946, which was the first build of Beta 3. And the new updated icons for My Computer and Recycle Bin, etc., first appeared in a later Beta 3 build. The Windows 2000 boot screen in the final version first appeared in yet another later Beta 3 build. Windows 2000 did not have a code name because, according to Dave Thompson of the Windows NT team, Jim Alchin did not like code names. Windows 2000, like I said, was initially planned to replace both Windows 98 and Windows NT 4.0. However, this changed later as an updated version of Windows 98 called Windows 98 Second Edition was released in 1999. Now, to see that, to see me talk about that, you can see my video on Windows 98 Second Edition in my Windows 98 history video. So that's a bit about the history of Windows 2000. Now, as is standard form in these videos, before we continue, I'm now going to show you the predecessor to Windows 2000, that being Windows NT 4.0. And I suppose we could have a wee peek at Windows 98, because in some places Windows 2000 did actually replace it. So, welcome to the demonstration for Windows NT 4.0. Now, the reason that you are looking at a VMware Virtual Machine page is because I want to show you Windows NT 4 starting. So, you see I've got my virtual machine here. It's got 128 megs of RAM, 1 CPU, 4 gig hard drive, CD-ROM floppy, and a network adapter, as well as a sound card. So, let's start her up. And we see we have two options by default, Windows NT 4 and Windows NT 4 VGA mode. If I press F8, nothing. This is what I have. So if I choose to start it up, I get the OS loader, and then oh no, has it crashed? No, it has not. This is, I shit you not, the startup screen for NT. Says what version of NT it is and how much memory you have. Oh yeah, and also, you know, what architecture it runs on, because Windows NT did support multiple architectures, including the DEC Alpha architecture and the PowerPC, and I believe MIPS as well. So there was quite a lot of support for different CPUs, not just the Intel x86 CPU. But when you finally got into Windows NT proper, this was the closest thing you had to a splash screen, and then you had a dialog box saying press Ctrl Alt Delete to log in. So we can do that. And then you have username and password, or you have cancel, that basically put you back to the Ctrl Alt Delete to log in dialog. Help explains, you know, how you're supposed to log on, and you can shut the machine down. Now we'll come to that, but first let's log on. Off there. Weird. So this is Windows NT 4. Now, yes, there is Internet Explorer 4 on here. By default, Windows NT 4 came with IE 2, but some versions did include Service Pack 3 in the box and Internet Explorer 4. In fact, I believe my version does. But I just installed Internet Explorer 4 without the active desktop or anything like that. Just to give it a bit of flavour. So if I go to my computer, we can see Windows NT 4 and a version of IE. And the RAM is given out in kilobytes. Then we've got performance, environment, startup and shutdown behavior, so we can make changes to boot.ini. We can specify how long the boot menu stays on for, and what the system will do when a stop error occurs, including the ability to automatically restart, hardware profiles, and user profiles. We'll come to that as well. So, Windows NT, if you're just sitting down to use it, looks and acts and behaves a lot like Windows 95. So we have the usual applications. WordPad. You can save stuff using long file names. And then open it up in Word. Obviously, because Word's installed on here. You have, well, actually, if we look at the start menu, you actually see we have a divider. Now, this goes away on if you install the active desktop, but the programs still stay divided. How do they become divided, you might ask? Well, this is shortcuts to programs on my user profile, and these are global shortcuts. So every user who has an account on this box, which is nobody, will see these icons. These ones, well, they get created oftentimes by Windows, but if you've ever installed a program and it's asked you if you wanted to install for all users or just you, if you're on NT4, it would install in your particular start menu, which is up at the top. If you installed for all users, it would appear at the bottom. Thing is, if you installed just for you, it would appear in your personal start menu folder and nobody else's. You might also notice as well that Windows Explorer is not present on Windows NT. We have Windows NT Explorer. Shall I tell you who that impressed? Me at 13 years old. That's who. Oh, Windows NT Explorer, it must be special. Yeah, about as special as I was for thinking it was something special. You see? Do you understand? Well, man, that's deep. That's pretty meta. Yeah. No. Obviously, well, you've got the find option. I never saw that in Windows 95 Explorer, I think. Don't know. You've got a go-to option. I guess it does have features that are specific to Windows NT somewhere. Maybe the go-to option. I do like that, actually. That is quite useful to have, because I've always said that Windows Explorer on non-active desktop systems should have an address bar. So I forgot to set this keyboard layout to the correct one, but well, let's do that now, actually, because out of force of habit I set the keyboard layout to UK and it's not, it's US. So we'll go and do that. So start, settings, control panel. Is it under keyboard? Yes, it is. Input locales. So I'm going to set that. English United States. Set that to be the default. Oh, going to need the NT CD. One moment. Loaded in the CD. Nice. We've got the Windows NT autoplay. Excellent. That's done. That's done. Let's remove that. And there we go. That's everything done, right? I can continue. Kind of. One thing I do need to do. This system has Windows NT Service Pack 6 installed. So, I'm going to need to reinstall this. And I am not kidding on here. Because I've installed files from the NT4 CD-ROM, I am now going to need to update those files. And this kind of became a bit of a trope with Windows NT. It's like, reapply the service pack, reapply the service pack, reapply the service pack. Luckily, because I'm in a VMware VM, it doesn't take 2 minutes. It's almost as if, for Windows NT, a Core i5 4670 is fast all sound. But yeah, that was something that was a pain in Windows NT4, and I'm guessing previous versions as well. Oh, you change your wallpaper, reapply the service pack. Oh, you change your printer, reapply the service pack, reapply the service pack. Oh, you applied the service pack, reapply the service pack. Oh, you just reapplied the service pack, apply the service pack. Right. Yeah. All that to change the keyboard layout. Yep, there we go. So, anyway, that was a brilliant illustration. Right, okay, so anyway, as I was doing, go to c://winnt/system32, and there we go. And we have regedit. We also have regedit 32, which looks like file manager for Windows 3.1. Nice. I kind of like the multiple document interface, but it looks it looks extremely unfriendly. Now, I am lucky enough that I was able to find the installation CD for the Ensoniq Audio PCI 128 for Windows NT, VMware, whatever thingy installed. I have sound using an installer. What if you wanted to install your sound drivers? What if you had a sound card, you plugged it, you installed it into the ISA slot of your Windows NT machine, and you started the machine up? Could go to add or remove hardware, right? Oh, well, where is it? Ken. Let's try devices. What the hell is this? There's the devices as services, almost. I mean, yeah, you've got your hardware profiles, but there's no device manager in Windows NT. And if you want to install a sound card manually, you have to do it through multimedia, go to devices, and then go to add. And do you recognize this dialog box? Okay, now imagine this dialog box with the Windows 3.1 user interface, and jings, that Windows got up. Yep, this is the Add Devices dialog from Windows 3.1, except, well, I guess Windows NT 3.x, but slightly updated and made to look like a 32-bit Windows dialog box, but as you can see, it's still very much 16-bit kind of a thing. Yes. So you kind of have to know what you're doing. And if something should go wrong while you are installing this hardware, you don't get safe mode. You just don't. It's not there. So there's a lot of stuff that Windows NT could do in terms of networking, in terms of manageability, in terms of stability, in terms of multitasking. But there is a lot that, at least in terms of the UI, was very much backwards. We've got services. That's quite a simple dialog box. Again, I mean, it does what it does everything that you would need it to do, but it's also very simple. NT4 did have PC card support. Got that from NT 3.51. NT 3.5 didn't have that. You have control panels for SCSI devices and tape devices. and UPSs, which I guess was put into the power option, which is missing from here, but that was in the power option on Windows 98. Speaking of power, you don't have ACPI in Windows NT by default. Yes, you can get it if you have drivers, but if you have third-party driver support, you can get Windows. You can get advanced power management, but NT4 doesn't have it by default. I love how you've got date and time. I mean, it's it's using the old calendar icon almost. It's using a very Windows 3.1-esque icon, but it does bring up the very modern date and time properties from Windows 95. The ports control panel is back from Windows 3.1, but you do have Inbox from Microsoft Exchange client from Windows 95. Server, so I'm guessing that would let you manage things on a server. So I spoke a bit about creating user accounts before. Well, how would we do that? We can go to Start, Programs, and we can go to the Administrative Tools. And in there you find, we find a number of programs. We've got Backup, we've got Disk Administrator, which allows you to do disk things, can create partitions and what have you. That's pretty good that you've got that option in Windows. You have Event Viewer. So, like I said before, this kind of a log. Well, this is kind of a log for Windows. It tells you anything that you might need to know. Or, depending on what you're trying to do, it could withhold more information from you than an NHS doctor doing his rounds in a hospital ward. Then you've got Remote Access Admin. That I guess would allow you to log on remotely to a Windows 2000 server, a Windows NT server rather. And then you've got Windows NT Diagnostics, which just basically brings up a version of the system dialog box, but with a menu. And you could look at that. You can take a look at system information for other machines, like my server, which it has no information on because it's not actually Windows. It's Windows NT server. No, it's not. It's running Debian. Right. Did you just assume my operating system? So, going back to creating a user account, we can do this using the user manager. And this is the same way that you would create users in Windows NT 3.x. So you can change the groups and change the group policy. But to add a user, could go to user, new user, and let's see, can make a user called Ballbag. Boris Johnson. Not that I would want him to use even a pocket calculator belonging to me, but okay. Description. Better not say in polite company. Password. Money. User must change password at next logon. Obviously, I should be using Active Directory because I would need to, make a Boris Johnson account that's a subset of a Dominic Cummings account. And Dominic Cummings would actually be the one to make this account, really. So, this is a political joke. Anyway, So I could set up where the profile is, where the home directory is, and yeah, let's see, users. I could make him an administrator. No, I would not make the any UK Prime Minister an administrator. So there you go. That's me created a ball bag account for Boris Johnson. So I could log out of my shiny look at me admin account. No, it doesn't. It's NT4. There we go. As you can see, it's populating the desktop. And it's made a bunch of start menu. It's propagated a start menu for Boris Johnson, and we can still see all of the common programs, program group shortcuts, and what have you separately. But can Boris Johnson do stuff in User Manager? He could create a new group, but that's pretty much all he can do. So things are actually properly restricted on here. If you don't have the power, then you can't do. So I guess that is Windows NT4. So I think we'll shut it down. So to do that, we can go to Start, Shut Down. Shut down the computer, yep. And we are now going to see Windows NT's shutdown process. Futuristic sound, man. This obviously has a different startup sound because I've installed Creative Labs drivers. But yeah, please wait while the system writes unsaved data to the disk. And that's a machine shut down. Ready to switch off. You have to do that manually. Yes, VMware does support ACPI. Well, yeah, VMware supports ACPI. NT4, like I said, doesn't. So, you know, I could either turn the machine off or I could click on restart. The important thing is, though, the hard disk head will have been placed on a non-used area of the hard disk. So the machine is actually safe to shut down. So we shall. There we go. And that is Windows NT4. And before I end this demonstration completely, when I was 13 years old and getting into the NT line of operating systems, I did used to have a terrible joke. Not having ever used Windows NT before, I always used to say, what do you get if you put Windows NT into safe mode? More features. Yeah, I know, it's bloody terrible. But, yeah. But that's Windows NT4. It's not meant to be brimming with fancy eye candy features. It's an operating system that's meant to sit on your computer and work and let you work. That's what it's for, and that is what it did brilliantly. Absolutely fantastically. You want to write Word documents? Fine. You want to manage large spreadsheets? Fine. You want to attend to giant databases? Absolutely fine. You want to do CAD designs? Yeah, you can do that. NT4 had OpenGL support. It even had rudimentary DirectX support. And it would do it very well. It would do it very stably and would allow you to keep your computer running a lot longer than Windows 9X would before it tripped over and crashed and blue screened. So, yeah, that is NT4. Pretty tough benchmark to beat, but not unbeatable. Let's find out how. Oh dear. Well, this has went well. Um, I thought we would have a wee kick at Windows 98, but I think this kind of nicely illustrates the problems with Windows 9X. But this is my utility VMware Windows 98 machine. If you're into retro computers at all, it's a good idea to have one of these set up. So this is my utility machine. I've had this installed since 2016, which is longer than I've had any install of any operating system ever. But yeah, so here it is, Windows 98. Now, you've seen this on my channel before, and we're not going to take too long looking at this because, we've well, we have seen this millions of times on the channel, and there was an operating system that was more of an update to Windows 98 than Windows 2000 was, sadly enough, as it were. So yeah. So this is a Windows 98 desktop, as you can see. We've got the active desktop. Now you can add that to NT4, like I've said before, but it didn't come with it, but 98 did. So that meant you got a lovely Windows Internet Explorer feel to Windows Explorer. You got an address bar with which you could navigate to various files, various locations. You got a rudimentary warning telling you not to go and touch files in that directory, and the Windows directory as well. Absolutely brilliant. You got a nice fancy sliding effect for menus. If we go into the system properties, we see the amount of memory there measured in megabytes. We also have a device manager, and if you wanted to install hardware, it's as easy as using the add or remove hardware wizard. Very nice. Date and time, I guess. Yeah, that that is the same icon as NT. I was laughing at it, but yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't look as old here somehow. But you do have the multimedia icon. You can add devices through here. You would go through the add new hardware wizard, and you'd just follow the steps and add your device. Obviously, you have no proper management tools in Windows 98. To partition and format the hard disk, you have to use Fdisk. You have to drop down. Really, you should be dropping down to DOS to do that. But you can operate it from within Windows. But it's a lot less advanced than the disk management utility in Windows NT. And yeah, it really is quite rudimentary. But the actual UI is a lot friendlier to a standard user, and you have DirectX support up to version 9.0C. You have support for more full support than NT for DOS games, and it's just a more friendly operating system to install and use for the home user, and even for some small business users. In fact, there was a lot of businesses that did use Windows 98 and 95 on their network. So I mean, this was a home operating system, but it wasn't exclusively for home use, like ME was. So it was a very versatile operating system. And now if we, first of all, let's see if we can create a user in Windows 98, because we did that in T. So next, ball bag. Again, we've only got a username. Don't have full name. We can give them their own start menu and what have you. But there's no common start menu. So if we did that, created new items to save space, and they had their own common start menu, and they had their own start menu, you must restart Windows to begin using your new user account. Right, okay. Ball bag. Money. So it's now going to go and propagate the user account. There we go. Oh, crap, there's nothing on the start menu. Well, how am I supposed to get to all the programs? What is this? What is this? See, this is what happens when you don't have a common set of start menu options, guys. Yep. And this is something that I deal with at Retrofest. Have to put the start menu items in. Roaming profiles, I've never got that to properly work. But there you go. That's Windows 98. So let's shut it down. It's going to take a while. Is it even going to shut down properly? Who knows? You can tell. And there you have it. That's the problem with Windows 9X. Brimming with lots and lots of nice, shiny features that look good on a computer, especially a computer on a shop floor that you're just away to buy. But when it comes to using it, it's always tripping over itself. So, I mean, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't the greatest either. And this is why Windows XP and future versions of Windows were based on the NT kernel, and at the very least, NT technology, so to speak. And Windows 9X went the way of the dodo. So, let's have a look at the successor to Windows NT, and some might say to Windows 98. This is just completely gone. It's hopeless. It's crashed the hypervisor. It's crashed the hypervisor trying to shut it down. What is this?
And now, we're going to take a nice break. We hope you have enjoyed part 1 of this documentary on the Microsoft Windows 2000 family of operating systems. Please join us for part 2, where for your viewing pleasure, we will lick this kitty cat.
Hey, what the bloody hell do you think you're doing on this documentary. Get out, you bastard!
Do I say?
Sorry about that, folks. Slight technical hitch there. But please do join us for part 2 of this documentary, where we will be taking a look more into the development of Windows 2000 and of its launch. We'll actually take a look at Windows 2000 itself, and we'll talk a wee bit about its life. So, join us then. And thank you for watching this part, and please subscribe for more. Cheery bye.